What's it now? All right.
You know, folks, up where I'm from in Brooksy Branch Road, folks look a little bit different. Now, I'm thinking of an old gal that had a heart big as a watermelon, big old raw bone gal, but ugly. I mean, she was something to look at.
This is
Her name was Boo Hedgeapple. Now, Boo, listen, she'd put that 16% co-op feed sack on, you know, and wash her hair with Oxidol when she washed it. That's right, went to dipping snuff at an early age, I won't tell you when. And used to wear her shoes out from the inside. Her feet was so tough, going barefooted. Man, she'd stomp them chestnuts with that heel, too, made them kind of tough. Oh, listen, she was just a big old raw bone gal, you know. And oftentimes folks come up there and date our girls, you know, and kind of sass them, say the wrong thing, go home with a ringing in their ears. Well, Sherman Sagegrass married Boo. We saw Sherman down Court Square, been 3 or 4 weeks. Said, Sherman, how you and Boo get along? Said, listen, me and Boo hadn't been married too long. Boo sassed me. Said, when she sassed me, I just backhand her right in the mouth. Said, I didn't see Boo for a week, and after a week, my right eye open, I began to see her just a little.
That's Boo Hedgeapple.
Up in our country, we got a family I'd like to talk to you about just a little bit, and it's a fast-thinking Clanahan bunch. Oh, listen, one of them got in politics, and you know how he got in there? He had an old shepherd dog that he taught one trick. And when he'd say dead dog, that dog just fall over and stick his legs out just stiff like that. And he went down there to the Democrat convention, you know, and got them all around and said, listen, y'all come here, I want to show you something. Said, Shep, I'm going to ask you a question. Which had you rather be, a Republican or a dead dog?
Wow. You come up with him, couldn't you?
That got that boy in politics. He started running for judge. He was making him a speech, you know, I'll put a chicken in every pot, and had that mouth open and gesturing, you know. And there was a bug out there circled 3 or 4 times, and finally that thing, man, he rubbed his throat a little bit, and he got back and got his composure where he said, ladies and gentlemen, that'll teach that bug to watch where he's a-flying. He was just a feller that could talk a round thing and say nothing, you know. This feller asked him a loaded question. Here's for the other man. He said, listen, Mr. Clanahan, if you get elected, what do you think about moving the courthouse in this county? That's a loaded question. You know, 5 miles over the road, these folks been fussing about that all their life. And he said, listen, I got friends over in Parsons that knows more folks over there than anywhere in the county, and them friends believe it ought to be over there. And they're my friends, and I love them. They love me. And I got friends right here in Cadaville, where this courthouse has been low these many years, the geographic center of the county, and they're my friends, and I love them, and they love me. And I'm going to tell you one thing, and smoke it in your pipe and put it in your gizzard, boy. I'm aiming to stay with my friends.
Didn't say anything.
See, he just talked all around, didn't say nothing, kind of like a Mother Hubbard gown, cover everything, touch nothing. That's just kind of like he's doing. Y'all heard folks do that a whole lot, I know. Uncle Eb Clanahan was the daddy of this fast-thinking Clanahan boy running for judge. And down at his grocery store, you know, they didn't call it lying, they just called it a matter of opinion, you know. He was down there with Uncle Lemuel Hedgepath, and they went in. The truth of the matter is, folks, that they both lied, so they had to get somebody else to call the dogs. But Uncle Eb come in this one day and says, boys, I got the fastest coon dog ever lived. We'll strike running tree a coon faster than any dog ever lived. Uncle Lemuel said, hey, boys, says, you slow that down a little bit. So some of us other folks have got dogs. So they just got it worked up and made a bed out of it. Couple of pecks of sweet taters, bushel or 2 of corn, got the whole community involved, and said, when the night comes, let's go and see. Well, Uncle Eb's dog was named Old Herb, and the night come, frost on a pumpkin, everything quiet, folks gathered, Halleck had his big 8-cell light, and he turned old Herb loose, and Uncle Emmett turned his good dog loose. Old Herb gone just about 5 minutes, and they heard him strike. Oh! Uncle Eb jumped about that high off the ground and said, "Speak to him, baby. It's a coon, it's a coon, it's a coon." Old Herb hit, you know. He barked about twice, and then he went silent. And Uncle Emmett said, "Why is he running silent?" Says, "He may be running on posted land. He's that smart."
Flower stole that from me. He stole that from me.
Jerry Flower did.
Yeah, his next deal. He had that.
Next time they heard old Herb open, he was up on a ridge, and it just, "Ow, ow, ow, ow,
Is
ow."
it gone?
Uncle Eb said, "He's treed, boys, he's treed. Man, we begin to let them sawbriars cut us here around the ankle, riding them young saplings down. Get over there." When we got over there, old Herb had treed up a blackjack about the size of my leg, had 2 limbs on it, and every leaf gone. Uncle Emmett shined that thing from top to bottom. He said, "Eb," says, "you ain't only got a fast dog, you got a line dog. Ain't nothing up that tree, boy." But Uncle Eb remembers a fast thinking. He said, "Hush! Y'all get quiet, get over here, turn out the lights, sit down on this log." Old Herb's so fast, I don't know how far we are ahead, but we beat that coon to the tree.
All right, talk to me just a minute about your coon dog stories. And you obviously made a lot of money telling coon dog stories. Where would you say that you told one once upon a time you were out somewhere in California and you barked like a dog for 15, 20 minutes? What was that story?
That was a story when we were at the Cow Palace and Johnny Paycheck had, I was the MC, and I was supposed to, introduce all of, we had Asleep at the Wheel and Johnny Rodriguez, and we had the guy that sang When the Last Teardrop Falls, and Freddie Fender, and had a lot of celebrities on there, and Johnny was a headliner. And when he came out, he was, as the old boy called, he was inebriated. I mean, he was in another world. I don't know what on earth I was going to do. And because he was incapacitated. And so I told a coon dog story, and they didn't understand it, but at least when I went to barking that they related. See, I had a tremendous audience there from California, I'm sure, and didn't understand a thing about hunting raccoons. And I had to change it from coons to raccoons so they would understand. And anyway, I barked like a dog. Right, one of the guys told me it went right at 15 minutes. And I barked like a dog. I treed 2 or 3 times. And they all really enjoyed it. And it was quite an experience. But I did so many shows at Opryland Hotel that a lot of those folks would call me the dog man. They said, "That man barking like a dog right there, he's going for another show." And it got to where that I did a lot of shows in Nashville at other places, venued, but they got to where they expected me to bark like a dog and to run a raccoon. And see, the fact that we had the world's biggest raccoon here in Decatur County.
The world's biggest raccoon hunt?
The world's largest raccoon for St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. It just fit right in, see, and I was in the beginning as we started that.
But this all started from when you were a young man.
Yes.
And you hunted raccoons with dogs.
Right.
How many dogs did you have?
At one time, I had 13 dogs.
13 raccoon dogs.
13 raccoon dogs. Some were running the raccoon, and other dogs were running dogs.
All right. And during those, y'all sat around. Sometimes you ran with the dogs, and
Right.
sometimes you
Right.
sat around a fire and listened to the dogs. All sorts of different
Sometimes
things.
the dogs would be on a trail to be 3 o'clock in the morning, and I was trying to teach school, and I had an old dog named Queen, and I could call her in, and I could take my coat and lay it down there where we had parked the truck. And after I got out of school at 3 o'clock, I'd go out there, and every dog I had would be laying around in the bushes, and old Queen would be laying on my coat.
Man, you had your real dog, didn't you?
Yeah.
All right, how old are you now, Dad? 88?
Be 89 in the spring.
All right, but you can still hit it a lick on the raccoon dog. All right. Now, for those folks that don't know and they're just looking at this, tell us about the different kinds of dogs. Like you got a dog when they start, when they're just hunting around out in the woods.
Yeah.
When he starts, he
Yeah.
just trail it.
Yeah.
Well, how's he kind of sound when he's just looking around?
Well, I always talk about Uncle Eb was a deacon in the church, but he would exaggerate when it came to a coon dog.
Okay.
And so usually the folks came to the world's largest coon hunt to probably buy a dog.
Okay.
And so Uncle Eb was there. Usually they folks referred to him because he knew more about dogs. He was a self-proclaimed expert on any kind of dog.
Okay.
He had plot hounds. He had English blue tick hounds. He had black and tan hounds. He had all kind mixed up.
Every kind of hound.
Every kind of hound, you know. So anyway, I developed a deal about walking up there. The guy walked up there to buy a dog and had a tie on, which instantly showed that he had more money than he had sense, because nobody else had a tie on, a suit, but he wanted to buy a coon dog.
Okay.
And so they referred him to Uncle Eb. And they said, I understand you have dogs, and I'm just getting in the business, and I want to buy the best dog here. Uncle Eb said, well, I got him. And he said, well, what does he look like? He said, he's right here. So he led him out there on a chain. And he said, what kind is he? He said, well, he's got a little plot in him. He's got some walker in him, and his daddy is just all these mixed in, and he's bred to a black and tan, and she was the prettiest thing that you ever laid your eyes on.
Black and tan
Right.
raccoon
Black
hound.
and tan raccoon hound said I had a mouth that when he treed, he'd jar hickory nuts out the top of them trees. Have his feet on a tree. And that guy would just stand there and memorize. He was mocking that dog. He said, well, if he's so good, I'd love for you to take him out in the woods a little bit. Can you? He said, yeah, but you'll have to get you some boots on now, you know, and you need probably take that tie off, because he ain't never seen a man with a tie coon hunt.
Okay.
So he turned him loose out there, and he struck. He said, what's he running? He said, he's just now smelled a raccoon. He'd get in the next holler. He hit it lick or two. Finally, he just quit. And the guy looked at him and said, now your dog struck, and then he hit it a lick or two, and now he's quit barking. What's that mean? He said, he's so smart, he's quit barking because he's seen a no hunting sign.
Okay. All right.
Then he crossed that no hunting, that posted land, and he treed up on the hill. Just he treed in cadence. And that fellow, he said, man, that's the best coon dog I ever heard. He said, man, he's good. Said, we got up there, and he had treed up a little old sweet gum, had 2 limbs on it, every leaf gone, them bare, and we'd shine that wheat light up and down that tree, he said. Well, now you ain't only got a fast dog, but said you got a line dog. Ain't nothing up this tree. He said, shh, hush, hush, get quiet. Sit down on this log. I don't know how far we are ahead, but we beat that coon to the tree. And then I backed up a little bit on him, and he said, you got a good nose? He said, listen, that dog, I caught him one time trying to lick a frozen raccoon track, trying to warm it up to smell it. And said, we took him out when he was about 2 years old, and he hit the back trail instead of the front trail and trailed that raccoon back up to the den where he was born and treed his mama. And you asked me about a dog's nose and said, you asked me a while ago, how fast is he? Said the other night he treed in about a 50-foot holler log. And said he'd run and bark at one end and go and bark at the other end, and one end he got to running from one end to the other so fast he was barking in both ends at the same time.
Man, okay.